Hey guys, I've had a lot of teachers asking about screen conferencing or video conferencing with their students in live time. And I wanted to make a series of videos to talk through this a little bit and kind of my best practices. There are not any Northside specific guidelines or expectations at all, but I do know that some campuses are moving forward with this. So I wanted to make sure to outline all of kind of my thoughts or tips on how to do this well and appropriately and legal. I'm not trying to scare you at all, and I don't want you to walk away from this series of videos kind of being fearful about it. But I just want you to know kind of what's out there and what's realistic, and just kind of knowing those things before you jump into them. If you haven't read stories about Zoom bombing or anything like that, it's the idea of outside people coming in and jumping into video chats and kind of taking them over, or and that's a real thing. And there's resources and kind of potential ways to work against that, and that's what this kind of series of videos is for. So first, just kind of my general tips. So I hate to do this, bad practice. I'm going to read through this, but I think there's some value to it. So these tips are going to keep your sessions professionally focused and really protect yourself, right? That's the main purpose here. I'm not saying do not connect with your students on a personal level, but I do think that keeping it all professionally focused is important. I know this job is about relationships, and it's very important to make sure you're caring about the kids on a personal level more than anything else. If they don't know you care about them, they're not going to learn from you. We all know that in the classroom, and now digitally it's even more so. That being said, got to be professional at all times. You got to understand how you're coming across visually, verbally, your surroundings. All of that is going to be something that your students are going to look at and can be distracted by, can be focused in on, and something very, very important to kind of keep in mind. Also, another level, record your sessions when possible. And I don't say record on the cloud because that's different. You could run into some FERPA violations of student faces and student names being shared to the cloud. I'd say record on your computer, record on your local device. Different settings on different programs allow you to do that. If you're utilizing Google Meet, for example, recording, that's inside the Google database. So we're okay. If you're using something like Zoom, you can record those on local computers. So you don't have to worry about going to the Zoom cloud. Anytime there's an issue come up, whether it's chat, verbal, or someone shared a video feed that's inappropriate, make sure you communicate that immediately to your immediate supervisor as well as your campus principal. I want to make sure everyone's kind of in the loop on these types of issues. And then the last one is kind of a little complicated if you're not super tech savvy, but there's a difference between kind of giving them a green light and then actually going, right? Or think about it like a traffic signal. So you get a green light, but it's up to the individual driver to drive through the intersection. So the best video conferencing is the one where the presenter, the host, or the teacher controls the lights. Okay, you have the green light, and then the individual student pushes down on the accelerator or pushes down on the mute button or the microphone button, and then unmutes their microphone and chooses to share. The host or the teacher can either say, okay, you have a green light to share, or nope, you can no longer share, and I'm taking that right away. But ultimately, it's in charge. The student is in charge of turning on their microphone or turning on their camera. They can't share until the teacher or the host allows them to. It's kind of I'm trying to jumble that explanation with a real world example. I don't know if it worked out. The only difference in the real world example is you'd want, as soon as the teacher turns on the red light, immediately wherever the student is, they get cut off. They have to stop immediately. For example, in the story, here's a better example in the real world. Johnny comes in the digital meeting, but his camera and microphone are automatically muted, and that's from the settings. When you want Johnny to share something, you give him permission, you give him the green light, but then Johnny has to turn on his feeds manually, camera or microphone. Johnny turns them on, and when he's done, you can turn them off, or he can turn them off. But you can turn them off, but you can't turn them on. It's a one-way control or rights. You don't want to be able to remotely turn on a student's camera or remotely turn on a student's microphone. That's not good practice. I can just think about all the worrisome things that could come up. You do want the ability to say, oh, Johnny, you want to share something with the class? Okay, let me give you access to turn your stuff on. Okay, now that you're turning it on, okay, I'm controlling it. Okay, now Johnny steps out of line, I'm going to turn him off. So you do want those types controls. And there's some built in automatically, some you got to kind of manipulate. But just keep that in mind as you're looking through that. Notice I'm not talking about a program specifically. This is kind of just in general. Some of our programs that teachers are using out there don't allow for what I was just explaining, and you just kind of be cognizant of that as you're moving forward. But I'm going to make a series of videos, one about how to do some best practices in Meet, one how to do best practices in Zoom, and then real quickly, I have created this file here, student reminders. Working with your campus, you could make these a list of student expectations. It's totally up to you. But I think the idea of having them log in with Northside Google, making sure they know this is a school event, appropriate behavior at all time, making sure they know that things are going to be recorded, having them kind of take some ownership and mute their own microphone when they're not using it. And then this school wanted to put some more parameters in there when they're sharing out the video sessions, which ones they could go into, and then how to attend via time-wise. So good resource here to kind of think through. Again, just tips. Don't feel like you have to utilize any of this. And again, no expectations at all. Just kind of best practices out there. Let me know if you got any questions as you're jumping into this. I've got a series of videos coming up, so hopefully these will all be valuable to you.